Welcome back to the channel Mindset Hub Tube, the place where ideas don't just change what you think, they change how you think. Today, we're unlocking the real art of influence, the kind that inspires change without pressure or manipulation. If you've ever wanted to guide someone's mindset without forcing it, this episode is your breakthrough. Let's uncover the hidden psychology behind persuasion in How to Change Minds by Rob Jolles. Ready to influence with integrity? Let's begin. With the simple truth, most of us think we're good at convincing people. We think just having the right argument, a smart strategy, or the perfect piece of advice will automatically change someone's mind. But how often does that really work? How many times have you made what you thought was an obvious point, only to see the other person dig in deeper, defend their position, and resist even more? That's because, as Rob Jolles explains, people don't resist change. They resist being changed. And that distinction is huge. Let's explore that. Imagine you're talking to a friend who smokes. You care about them, and you know smoking is hurting their health. So you bring it up. You point to facts, statistics, maybe even scary images from cigarette packs. You're doing it for their own good. Yet instead of listening, they shut down. They justify why it's not that bad, or promise to quit later. You've got all the proof, but they're not budging. Why? Because whatever you said, however logical or emotional you tried to be, they didn't feel like the idea to quit came from them. It felt like you were pushing them into change. And that's the essence of this book. You cannot change someone's mind by force. You have to lead them to see the change themselves. Let's go deeper. Every time someone feels like control is being taken away, even if the suggestion is helpful, their instinct is to push back. Rob Jolles explains that it's not the message that causes resistance, it's the delivery. The how matters as much as the what. The key to influence isn't in telling people what to do. It's in helping them discover what they already need. Think about doctors. The good ones don't barge into the room saying, "Stop eating junk food, start exercising, sleep more." No, they ask questions. How have you been sleeping? What's your current diet like? What do you think is causing that fatigue? A great doctor isn't just diagnosing a body, he's influencing a mind, and he does it through guided discovery, not forcing answers. Interestingly, Rob Jolles spent decades as a sales trainer, teaching people not how to pressure customers into buying things, but how to help them realize what they already need. He breaks down influence into a repeatable process, not sales, not ultimatums, but a process where someone shifts from defending the status quo to questioning it, from resisting change to wanting it. Here's a real-world example Jolles shares. He once worked with a financial advisor who complained that clients never took her retirement advice seriously. She was smart, knew her stuff, and laid out solid plans, yet people rarely acted. Jolles asked her, "Do you tell them what to do, or do you help them discover what they need?" In her case, she was doing all the talking. She was the expert, but the clients didn't feel ownership of the decision. So Jolles flipped it. Ask first. Like, how confident do you feel about having enough income after age 60? What might happen if there's a medical emergency and you haven't saved enough? Suddenly, clients began reflecting, feeling the need, and asking her for solutions. Same knowledge, different approach. Big difference. Here's the first big shift Jolles asks us to make. To influence someone, stop trying to convince them. Start trying to understand them. Imagine approaching influence with curiosity instead of certainty, asking instead of telling, listening instead of convincing. It's radically different from manipulation because manipulation is self-serving, while real influence is other-serving. Let's explore how that works, where we'll uncover the 7-step process to ethically influence and how to navigate objections without pressure. You might think influence starts with talking, but Rob Jolles says it actually begins with listening, and not just passive listening, but deep strategic listening. Why? Because most people don't change their minds when they're told they're wrong. They change when they feel understood. Before we continue, let's imagine a scene. Picture you're in a conversation with your younger brother who's stuck in a job he hates. You want to help him find a new direction. In the past, you've told him about opportunities. You've sent links, forwarded job openings, even connected him with professionals. But he never follows through. Then one day, you decide to try something different. Instead of telling him what to do, you ask him, "Hey, what does a fulfilling day look like for you? What do you wish your work meant to you beyond the paycheck? What's stopping you from pursuing something more meaningful?" Suddenly, the walls come down. He starts talking, not defending, not resisting. He's exploring with you. Not because you led with answers, but because you led with questions. And that's the heart of Jolles' influence process. Ask before offering, listen before guiding, feel before fixing. Rob Jolles lays out what he calls a predictable, repeatable process for influence. You're not guessing. You're not manipulating. You're walking someone through a path where they see the need to change. And here's the beautiful thing Jolles emphasizes. The best influencers are actually the best problem finders. Here's how the flow goes. 1. Build trust. Without trust, nothing starts. People protect themselves from pressure, but they open to connection. 2. Define the problem with them, not for them. If the person doesn't truly feel the problem, they won't care about the solution. You need to help them explore what's not working in their own words. 3. Ask, don't tell. The fastest way to lose influence is to jump to solving. Instead, ask questions that help them uncover gaps and feel the need for change. 4. Create emotional realization. Logic moves minds, but emotion moves people. Find the human connection behind the facts. 5. Provide solution only when invited. If you listen well, they'll ask, "Okay, what do you think I should do?" 6. Support, don't sell. Even when they see the need, they may hesitate. Stay patient. Don't push. Stay with them through the doubt. And 7. Affirm their agency. The best influencers leave people feeling empowered, not directed. You want them to feel like, "I chose this, not someone else." One of the most powerful stories Jolles tells is about a teacher who had a troubled student. The boy was bright, but always disruptive. Traditional tactics didn't work. Punishment, lectures, even detention. Nothing changed. So the teacher tried something radical. She asked him, "What kind of person do you want to be known as in this classroom?" His face changed. No one had ever asked him that. He admitted he didn't want to be the problem kid. He just didn't know how to be anything else. This opened a doorway. From there, they created a plan, together, where he took part in defining how he wanted to behave and how he wanted to be seen. And for the first time, the change lasted. Jolles calls this the power of shared discovery. Because when someone takes ownership of their change, they don't just comply, they commit. Here's where the book gets even deeper. Rob Jolles doesn't just talk about influencing others. He reminds us that the hardest mind to change is often our own. He challenges us. Are you open to new ideas? Do you resist feedback because of pride or fear? Do you listen as much as you speak? Because real influence requires humility, a willingness to grow while helping others grow. It's why the best leaders, coaches, teachers, and communicators are always learning, always becoming more aware of their own blind spots. We're going to break down how to deal with resistance, not by overpowering it, but by dancing with it. We'll explore the psychology of objections, why pushback happens, and how you can turn defenses into discovery. Stay curious, stay open, and remember, changing minds starts with seeing people. Let's go deeper into the psychological side of influence, specifically how people react when they feel they're being pushed. The truth is, resistance isn't the enemy, it's information. It tells you what someone is feeling and what they may be afraid of losing if they change.
Have you ever tried to convince someone to do something, and the more you talked, the more they argued the opposite? It almost feels like you're speaking two different languages. Rob Jolles calls this counter-persuasion, and he says it happens because people aren't just thinking with logic. They're protecting their identity. Every belief we hold has a personal value underneath it. So when you challenge someone's belief, to them, you're not just challenging a fact, you're challenging who they are. Understanding that is fundamental to influence. Ever notice that when you try to push someone forward, they lean back? That's because when we feel like something is being taken from us, whether it's our freedom, our certainty, or even just our right to decide, we instinctively resist. Let's take a real-world example. A manager keeps pressuring an employee to try a new strategy. It'll make your work easier, you'll get better results, I've done this before, trust me. But instead of adopting the new method, the employee gets more defensive, even hostile. The manager sees it as laziness or stubbornness. But underneath, the employee is really thinking, why am I being told what to do? Don't they trust me? Do they even understand how I work? The pushback isn't because of the idea, but because of how it's being delivered. This is where Jolles introduces a critical insight. You don't change minds by forcing clarity. You change minds by creating curiosity. Instead of stating, you should do this, try asking, what might happen if we explored this together? That's the difference between a directive and an invitation. Jolles teaches that objections are not rejections. They're simply misunderstood concerns. And if you can learn to read them, you can move mountains. Here are 4 common objections people express and what they often really mean. 1. I don't need this. Hidden message? I don't see the problem like you do. 2. I can't afford this. Hidden message? I don't feel enough value to justify the cost or change. 3. I'm not ready. Hidden message? I'm scared I'll fail. 4. This won't work. Hidden message? I've tried something like this before. It didn't help. In each case, the mistake many people make is arguing against the objection. But Jolles shows a powerful alternative. Agree with their concern and explore deeper. For example, if someone says, I'm not ready, instead of responding, yes you are, you can do it, you could say, I understand. It sounds like there's something weighing on you. Want to talk through what that is? That simple shift in tone turns defensiveness into dialogue. Here's a technique Rob Jolles teaches that's pure gold for real influence. When you sense resistance, don't push harder, pivot to partnership. Try lines like, help me understand what's holding you back. Or, what part of this feels most uncertain? Or, if nothing changed, what do you think would happen? Each question is an invitation for them to reflect rather than react. And what happens next is powerful. Once people feel heard, their defenses drop, their mindset opens, and now for the first time, they're willing to explore alternatives with you, not against you. You're not the changer, you're the guide. Rob Jolles shares a story of a consultant hired to help a CEO modernize his company's structure. The CEO was old school. He had heard dozens of pitches, suggestions, reports, and yet every time someone brought up change, he shut down. This is how we've always done it, he'd say. Most consultants lectured, criticized, or insisted. All failed. But one consultant saw the pattern. Instead of pitching a new structure, he asked the CEO, what do you want your legacy to be? The CEO paused. His eyes softened. No one had ever asked him that. He replied, I built something strong. I want it to last. Then the consultant said, what if, together, we explored how your company could grow even stronger through change? That was the moment the walls came down. Not through pressure, but through purpose. Influence is not about convincing someone you're right. It's about helping them see what's right for them. Resistance is not an obstacle. It's a signal. and every signal tells you something valuable about what the other person needs before they're ready to change. Next time, we'll explore how to present your solution in a way that feels aligned, welcomed, and empowering, so the change feels like a choice, not a command. We'll also look at how influencers can build long-term credibility and how you can apply this in work, relationships, and personal growth.
Now that we've uncovered how resistance works and how to pivot through it, let's move forward to the moment of presenting the solution. This is the part most people think persuasion begins, but in truth, it's the part that only works if everything before it has been done with care. Let's imagine you're deep in a conversation with someone, maybe a colleague, a friend, a spouse, and after listening, asking, and uncovering, there's a shift. You see it in their eyes. The defenses have softened. They're no longer trying to protect themselves from the idea of change. They're now considering it. And this is where the real artistry begins. When someone finally asks, "Okay, what do you think I should do?" That's your signal. They're not just open, they're inviting. And when that happens, you don't force your solution on them. You offer it like a gift, with respect. Rob Jolles stresses the importance of aligning the solution with the person's own words and motivations, not yours. For example, if someone told you earlier that what matters most to them is feeling respected at work, then when you suggest a solution, you connect it directly to that core value. You might say, "Since you mentioned that respect at work really matters to you, I was thinking, would you like to explore a leadership course designed to build confident communication? It might be a helpful step in that direction." That tone tells them you heard them, you respect their priorities, you're not controlling, you're supporting. One of the main reasons people resist solutions is because they feel like they're being told what to do. But when you present a solution in alignment with their own values, what you're really saying is, "I trust you to decide. I'm here to help." This is what Jolles calls empowered influence, where the person feels ownership over the change, not like they're being guided by someone else's agenda. Rob shares a great example of a fitness trainer who couldn't get a client to commit to a program. She tried everything, meal plans, pep talks, schedules, but the client always drifted off after a week. So one day, instead of telling her client what to do, she asked, "What's your deepest reason for wanting to get in shape?" The client paused, then said, "I want to be able to play with my kids without getting tired." And everything changed. When the trainer later suggested an exercise or diet, she didn't frame it as, "This is good for you." She said, "Remember how you want to be the kind of mom who runs and plays with your kids, not just watches? This exercise gets you closer to that." It stopped being a fitness program. It became a purpose program. Another golden insight from Jolles: you don't have to be right, you have to be reliable. Influence, at its heart, is built on integrity over time. Ask yourself, do people know I have their best interest at heart? Do I show up consistently? Do I gently challenge, or do I force my views on others? Do I admit when I don't know something? Your credibility, not your intelligence, is what persuades people long-term. Let's take a simple example. Imagine two people giving you advice. The first is always opinionated, forceful, certain, but never listens to you. The second offers thoughts without pressure, asks how you feel, admits when they're unsure, but cares deeply. Who would you trust more? The answer is obvious. The second person earns your belief. That's what Jolles means when he says, influence is a relationship, not a transaction. So, in summary, this phase of influence, offering a solution, is not about pushing, selling, or convincing. It's about being invited to help, connecting your ideas to their values, and acting as a partner, not a persuader. It's subtle, it's respectful, it's empowering, and it works because the person feels guided, not controlled. In the next section,
we'll dive into the final pillars of influence, including how to reinforce change, how to reflect without judgment, and most importantly, how to use this power ethically. We'll also explore how you can rewire your own mind to make better decisions, because the most influential people are those who can influence themselves first.
So far, we've explored the arc of ethical influence, from listening, uncovering, and asking, to co-discovering the problem and offering solutions that align with someone's deepest motivations. But Rob Jolles emphasizes a crucial truth. Changing someone's mind isn't the finish line. Helping them stick to that change is. Let's explore what he calls the reinforcement phase, the final, often neglected stage that separates fleeting persuasion from lasting transformation. Picture this. You've helped someone recognize a problem, explore their options, and feel genuinely ready for change. Maybe it's a colleague starting a new system at work, a friend choosing to leave a toxic relationship, a client deciding to finally take control of their finances. But here's the reality. The first step is the easiest. Staying the course, that's where the real challenge lies. Resistance doesn't usually disappear when someone makes a decision. It just takes a new form: self-doubt, distraction, and setbacks. And that's exactly why reinforcement matters. Jolles reminds us, people need reassurance after change begins, not just before. And the ones who stick with change are the ones who feel supported through the discomfort. Rob shares a story about a company leader who finally agreed to adopt a collaborative management style after years of top-down control. At first, it was exciting. The team was energized, meetings were more inclusive, morale soared. But then things got messy. Projects slowed down, people disagreed more openly, consensus took time, doubts crept in. Maybe this isn't working. Maybe I should have stuck with the old system, he thought. And that's when the consultant stepped in, not to convince him all over again, but to remind him, this messiness, it's part of the process. Growth can feel chaotic at first because you're building new habits. Stay with it. Within months, the new system clicked. Transparency increased, employee trust grew, results improved. That's the magic of reinforcement. You're reminding people, it's hard now because it's new, but if it's aligned with who you want to be, it's worth it. Now, here's where the book takes a surprising turn. Rob makes it clear that true influencers aren't just good at changing others, they're skilled at changing themselves. Because how can you guide someone through self-doubt if you crumble under fear? How can you reassure others during chaos if you panic when progress seems slow? So Rob suggests a powerful mindset shift. Every influence conversation is also a mirror. The better you understand your own resistance, the better you'll help others navigate theirs. Let that sink in. Before influencing others, ask yourself, do I resist change by default? Do I get defensive when someone challenges me? Do I push back because I'm scared, not because I'm bright? Being honest with yourself isn't weakness, it's your secret strength. The most effective influencers live what they teach. They adapt, they examine their ego, they apologize when wrong. They model growth, not perfection. What sets Jolles' work apart isn't just the process, it's the moral clarity behind it. He warns us, influence is powerful, so it must be used with respect, humility, and responsibility. He draws a sharp line. Manipulation is using influence to serve your own agenda, ignoring the other person's needs. Influence is serving the other person, even when your idea isn't chosen. That's the difference. It's not influence when someone feels pressured, belittled, or cornered, even if your end goal seems good, because what matters is their freedom to choose. When you influence without manipulation, you uplift instead of control. You invite instead of threaten. You guide instead of shame. That's what Rob Jolles calls integrity-driven influence, and it creates not just better decisions, but better relationships. Picture a moment when you finally manage to turn someone's no into a maybe, and then into a quiet, confident yes. That's not just persuasion, that's alignment. And alignment requires more than technique. It requires trust, timing,
and truth. Let's explore how Rob Jolles unwraps the final layers of influence, the part where change actually takes root. Imagine a gardener. He doesn't stuff seeds into the soil and walk away. He nurtures them, waters them, ensures sunlight reaches them, and waits, because influence is not just about planting ideas, it's about helping them grow. Joles calls this the confirmation phase. Instead of declaring victory after someone agrees, a master influencer helps them feel good about the decision. You don't want their yes to be a reluctant nod, you want it to be a confident choice they feel they own. Like when your friend finally chooses the gym membership, not just because of the features you highlighted, but because you help them see themselves living their best version through it. This phase is subtle but powerful. Great influencers don't just change someone's decision, they help shape someone's identity through the decision. And there's a reason why. People rarely argue with their own decisions. If you command them to think differently, they'll fight you. But if you guide them to own the idea, they'll defend it. Joel shares a story of a financial advisor who didn't just sell retirement plans. Instead, he walked clients through what life looked like at 65, the vacations they dreamed of, the peace of having choices. By the time they were ready to buy, it wasn't about the policy, it was about who they were becoming. Here's the secret sauce. Influence isn't a sale, it's a story. A story where they are the hero, not you. And that's where real transformation happens. And that brings us to the end of today's journey. The art of changing minds without pressure, without tricks, just pure influence built on empathy and truth. If this video sparked something in you, even a tiny shift, imagine what you could do by applying it. You don't need to argue to be heard. You don't need to manipulate to make an impact. All you need is the courage to listen, the patience to understand, and the integrity to influence with heart. If you found value in this video, hit the like button. It helps our message reach more minds like yours. And if you're ready to explore more books that shift perspectives and elevate thinking, subscribe to Mindset HubTube, where powerful ideas meet personal growth. Before you go, drop a comment below and tell me what was the most powerful idea you're taking away from this book. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep influencing with intention and always stay curious. This is Mindset HubTube signing off. I'll see you in the next video.